Thanks for tuning in. You are here for the Conclave, a brand spanking new format assembled with other Dragon Age fans like me to tinfoil the hell out of whatever and everything. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the crew who assembled here today. Please introduce yourselves.
Hello, I go by Andorotea on social media. I'm coming to you from Sydney, Australia, and I'd just like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land where I am, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Thanks so much for having me, Lev. I'm excited and super nervous to be here and discuss some Dragon Age lore with you all.
Loving it. Thank you so much. That was a great intro.
Hello, I'm Gon Annam. I'm currently a game art student focusing on 3D character art. I'm also an enthusiast of Irish mythology and music. I'm rather late getting into Dragon Age, but I'm so glad that I did. And I'm glad to be here with all of you, so thank you for putting this together, Lev.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Girl Tries Games. To make a bunch of theory and analysis videos for Dragon Age back in the day on YouTube. This year, I put out a couple videos for the first time in 5 years, I think. But I still really love theorizing about Dragon Age and being part of the community, so thanks for hosting us.
You're welcome, and your fans just absolutely love you. They will wait for you till the end of time.
Yeah, I watched Girl Tries Games on YouTube before I met you here. Hi, I'm Happy Thoughts. Dragon Age is my happy place. I've been playing Bioware games since the 90s, and I love theorizing.
Wonderful. And we have White Wolf of the Wills who is joining us. He is typing to me right now, and I will be reading for him. He said, "Hello, I'm White Wolf, and I'm excited to be here. I've been a huge fan of Dragon Age ever since I played Dragon Age Inquisition a few years ago and fell in love with the world. Lore, character, story, all of these things that Dragon Age excels at are fascinating to me, and I'm always happy to theorize and discuss the wonderful things in this series of the games." Let me give everyone a little summary of what we're going to talk about. What I've kept close to my chest for a while now is the mystery behind the Toad Idol. This is why we're in the hidden chamber within the Nan-Hanin, nestled in Emerald Graves. This is the largest production of the Toad Idol that I've seen so far, and have called for the Conclave to examine this statue. If you look around the chamber, there's 5 exact copies of this idol, but smaller. There are 4 others like it, hidden in other areas, specifically in a cave in the western approach, and below various areas of Kirkwall. When we were chatting on Discord about the swirls on the idol, Gan and connected them to the Celtic symbol of Triskelion. Gan, can you speak more about that?
Sure. So I have to start off by saying that I'm no expert. I'm just someone that has been very into Irish mythology for a long time. So the Triskelion is a symbol featuring 3 legs or spirals emerging out of a center point. It has been used in many cultures over a long period of time, and the symbol on the statue looks similar to the Triskelions carved into stones outside of Newgrange and other ancient burial mounds in Ireland. The symbol could mean many things to many different cultures that it's used in, and even among the Celts, it could have had several different meanings. People speculate it could be the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, as the ancient Celts believed in reincarnation, past, present, and future, earth, water, and sky, and pregnancy also. Which is interesting because the symbol is on the statue's protruding belly. The number 3 was also significant to the Celts because in their pantheon, some of their gods and goddesses were tri-goddesses, meaning there were 3 to 1 kind of, and that's kind of where the idea of the 3-leaf clover comes from originally. So the goddess Bridget and the goddess the Morrigan, which is the goddess of death, war, and fate, which is a side note, she also takes the form of a crow, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, thank you. That's really awesome. There's so much to speculate around because it touches on Mythal, who has a symbol of the moon, and there's 3 phases of the moon, so to speak. But another symbol that speaks of cyclical triplicities, like the Holy Trinity, is the triangle, which we see a lot of Elven sculptures and murals. let's talk about the laws of threes. Can anyone think of other trinities in Dragon Age?
What about the Maker, Andraste, and Farath? They're not really a traditional trinity, but they depicted in a lot of Orlesian chantry and Ferelden chantry. I think they're stained glass images, maybe, or they're like some of the artwork assets that are used as tapestries and paintings in the game in Dragon Age Inquisition.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of like murals. They're in like a triptych, 3-paneled image. They're also in the art book, I think.
What else?
It's kind of an easy one, but there's the Kunari Triumvirate.
Speak
That's
more
a
of
good
that.
one.
And that is the head, no, the heart, the body, and the soul of the Kunari is what it translates as, which I think are interesting choices.
There are also the 3 different realms in Dragon Age, like the Fade, the Waking World, and the Void.
So why do we think this is significant in the whole scheme of things, of triplicities? Does it have to do with the spirits? I mean, speaking about life, death, and rebirth, we know that elves do die if, they get killed, but they have a form of immortality that kept their bodies and their mind from decaying, but they do die. But what about rebirth?
Well, Solas was saying that after his personal quest in Inquisition, with his spirit friend dying, he was saying that even after they die, they kind of reform into new spirits. So his friend wasn't totally gone. There's that.
White Wolf said the triplicity can also be faith versus sin versus divinity or perfection. And do we know that their spirits remain in ancient elven bodies when they enter Euthenera? Perhaps they need a vessel until the body recovers.
I was just thinking with what Wolf said in relation to Mythal and what we know of her wisp being inside Flemeth. I wonder if that's related or not.
That's actually what I was going to say, but more towards her daughters being possessed by her over time as a form of reincarnation, because that would go along with perhaps they need a new vessel until the body recovers.
Which makes me kind of think of the archdemons and how they're killed, and what we saw with how Corypheus was able to regenerate into a new body at the Temple of Mythal. I wonder if that's kind of similar.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for White Wolf to finish typing. He has something else to say. But speaking about rebirth, so the toad statue is odd, right? We've seen a lot of other statues around that represents the elven god, whether it's the wolf for Fen'Harel or the Hala for Galanan. But, when you look at the toad, it's like, who does that really represent? So I looked it up, I Googled this, and it was super interesting. It's relating to Heket, an Egyptian frog-headed goddess of fertility or childbirth. And in hieroglyphics, her name is written with a determinative frog.
A really cute frog.
I was going to say that too.
I don't know if it's a frog or a toad, but they call it a frog.
I mean, given the relation to the Nile, frogs are more amphibious than toads. Or they swim more than toads. Toads like water, but I would go with frog.
So to the Egyptians, the frog was an ancient symbol of fertility related to the annual flooding of the Nile. When the legend of Osiris and Isis developed, it was said that it was Heket who breathed life into the new body of Horus at birth. As the birth of Horus became more intimately associated with the resurrection of Osiris, Heket's robe became more closely associated with the concept. Happy? You had something to add?
I have more frog facts. There's a certain species of frog in a time of drought that can make a little hibernation sack for itself and just sleep until it rains again, and then water's back. Obviously, the drought is over, and the sack melts and the frog eats it. But it's a rebirth thing, kind of like a butterfly going into a chrysalis, but without the metamorphosis. So I wonder if that has something to do with the frog being associated with reincarnation.
I'm trying to think if any of the spirits kind of grow out of a sack and eats his own sack. But White Wolf loves your frog facts, by the way.
I do
You're
too.
welcome. Who knew they would come in handy one day?
So, what do you make of the symbolism of the Triskelion above the very pregnant idol with this known little fun fact about frogs?
I don't really have anything useful to say, but I think it's interesting because I never really noticed it was pregnant or that it looked pregnant or anything. But like for years, for some reason, I had it in my head that this statue was associated with Mythal, but I can't really remember at all like why or where that idea came from. But then considering Mythal's like the mother, I don't know, but I just thought that was interesting. I don't know where that idea came from for me.
There is like a really loose connection if you kind of stretch it out a bit. So the statue is referred to as Dumat in Dragon Age 2. We encounter it below Corypheus' prison.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of Dragon Age Inquisition, when we're fighting Corypheus, there is actually a mural of Mythal in the Elven mosaic style, which is in the floor.
Oh, right.
And and then at that point in the battle, I think Corypheus cries out to Dumat saying, why have you forsaken me, or something like that. And we can just see a little bit of that mural in the floor. So I think if you squint, that might be a connection between Mythal and Dumat. I think also actually one of the constellations might link Dumat and Mythal. I don't know if is it Selentir? I can't remember. Yeah, here we go. Referred to as Silence, the constellation Selentir is historically attributed to Dumat. Some consider this a plantation of the Mythal, but nothing indicates more than speculation. So there is a bit of a link there.
Another like really, really random thing that stood out to me was when you're in the Temple of Mythal, like Solas says like silence has reigned here or something like that. I don't remember exactly what his quote was, but that always stood out to me. And since Dumat's the god of silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. White Wolf said, could the Triskelion above the very pregnant idol have to do with transition between spirit and elf?
It could.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that theory that I think a lot of people have that elves were spirits who like manifested physically, which could be a whole other discussion in itself, I think. But yeah, what if it's about rebirth like physically? Or if we think about Uthenera, like could be when elves cast aside their physical bodies to return to the Fade as spirits, and that could also be like a rebirth.
Why do you think the ancient elves are just Fen'Harel, since, the plaques of the Toad Idol is seen along the walls of his refuge? What would he worship this idol? Why would immortal elves worship an idol of rebirth if they can't die?
That's a good question.
Oh yes, he got a lot to say here. It's curious. If the theory about them having a stone vessel for Uthenera is true, there would be an interesting parallel with Dwarven culture returning to the stone. It's possible these statues in ancient times weren't as revered as they are by the more modern cultures of Thedas. They may have simply been made for a specific purpose, for pragmatic reasons, and later cultures such as Tevinter and the Elves of the Dales came to worship these figures due to the lack of context or knowledge.
That's a good point.
Even though the modern civilizations don't quite know what they are, what do you think it means for the ancient elves?
I mean, that's a big question, because I feel like it doesn't really match like a lot of the other ancient elven stuff we've seen. And I know obviously art direction and stuff, if we want to like come out of the game, is different throughout the games, but I don't know, it just seems so weird to me. Like where did that style come from?
Question.
Yeah.
Were all elves immortal, or were only the ruling elves immortal?
I think they were all immortal at one point. I think that's what Solas was referring to in his monologue at the end of Trespasser. I took what he said to mean that all the elves were immortal, but that's
I
just
took it
what
that way too.
I think
Yeah.
in his like one of his first Skyhold conversations you can have with him, and he's describing ancient Arlathan, he's talking about the buyers or whatever. He says like, I think he says everyone was immortal, or implies it at least.
White Wolf was quoting Solas. The first of my people are not killed so easily. And he also said, what if common elves die, if killed, and are reborn, but lose their personalities? But the Evanuris are truly immortal and retain everything they are and know. Which is
kind of like his spirit friend, he said, would come back, but not
Same.
not be the same. Kind of like that idea.
That's true, because Mythal, she could split herself several ways and she still remember. Or I wonder if she just anticipate. She plans these things, right? Because if we killed her in Dragon Age Origins and resurrect her in Dragon Age 2 via the amulet, she suspects that somebody must have killed her. That's
I
why
always
she...
thought it was weird if you didn't kill her, though, because she still pops out of the amulet if you
Yeah.
just let her go. So that made me wonder if there were two of them, or she just didn't want to do the boat ride, so she hopped in the amulet and just, took a nap.
She did put herself in the amulet before Dragon Age Origins started. Here's a little fun fact for you. I looked up Dumat. Dumat itself has no meaning. I can't find a meaning for Dumat. But if you flip it to Tamud, in Tagala in Filipino, it means sperm. Fertility, pregnancy, sperm.
It makes Corypheus crying out for him really ironic, though.
With Heket, who is the frog goddess, she has amulets that is called I Am Resurrection. And Mythal comes out of her amulet at the altar of Mythal. So it makes me think about all the amulets that the Grey Wardens wear.
After the joining?
Yeah, after the joining. But it also brings up a question. If Grey Wardens wore those amulets that has a bit of their tainted blood in it, or the darkspawn blood in it, I wonder if Mythal is tainted herself to be able to resurrect.
Or maybe the joining ritual is a perverted form of their immortality ritual?
There's something with the archdemon if they weren't tainted before. So there's something with the archdemons or the old gods that make the resurrection possible.
Could it be the dragon's blood? I know blood of great dragons is super important.
White Wolf says he likes the idea. Joining ritual being a version of their ritual would make a lot of sense.
So I think blood and dragons does have something to do with it, because the whole aesthetic of the first game was blood, and the series is called Dragon Age. So I feel like that's significant for some reason.
And something about dragon's blood or dragons in general, resisting the taint.
Yeah.
Because that's what Frederick studies. And that always made me wonder if, Liliana had dragon's blood, and that's why in the alternate timeline she got to resist the taint a little bit. Or she's a lyrium ghost, whichever. Both are fun.
So the definition of reincarnation is the rebirth of a soul into a new body, human or animal. What we see with Corypheus is transmigration, the passage of a soul after death into another body. Is this something that Corypheus figured out after he turned into a darkspawn? Because Solas said that he did not anticipate him not dying.
I feel like it's something Corypheus somehow got from the Evanuris or the ancient elves.
I think so too. Because Solas did say, I didn't anticipate him learning this effective immortality.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So maybe somehow the elves learned, or the Evanuris learned it and passed it on to Corypheus somehow.
It seems like a lot in Tevinter is taken from the elves or borrowed,
Not that the Vince would ever admit to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of what I think it was Happy Thoughts that you said about maybe using the Blight was a corrupted version of the ancient elves were doing.
The resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
White Wolf said it's likely something he knew far before modern times, otherwise no need for the Wardens to imprison him. Corypheus does it through the Blight. Maybe the elves mastered this technique via the Fade. So White Wolf said, how dissimilar is this to what Mythal does with her daughters? Now, we have not seen that happen yet.
We haven't, but I will shout out that Mythal says you cannot force a soul upon the unwilling. So I would say it is somewhat dissimilar unless the Darkspawn are all willing by default to give up their bodies, but it doesn't seem voluntary per se.
Such as Anders volunteered to have justice possess him.
Right, and Wynn and her spirit friend.
But what about Aaron? Like, he didn't really have a chance to accept or deny that kind of just
That's true.
happened.
Very true. And he was still a sperm then.
Yeah, Tamid.
Yes, he is timid. Relating to tadpoles. Let's see. Just reminded me about Wynn in the book Asunder, where Evangeline was dying. And Wynn gave her the spirit of faith so she can live, but Wynn dies.
I really want to know if that makes Evangeline a seeker.
Yeah, that's so true.
But she wasn't just touched by the spirit, though.
Okay, I'll elaborate. Seekers don't have to use lyrium. Evangeline was most definitely a Templar who did. So would a Templar getting possessed effectively be a seeker, whole touching ritual that we know very little about aside?
So you know how Solas was saying that spirits are not that different from demons? Like they're just two sides of a coin? But demons can possess people that are unwilling, so
That's a good point.
how would that work out?
Yeah, like, is there a difference between a spirit in the Fade and, like, someone's essence that they might pass on?
Yeah, like a spirit and a ghost?
Yeah, soul or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, maybe some are just sort of memories, but others are more complete, like wisdom was, or other higher kind of complex spirit, like justice was, awakening.
White Wolf said that's under the assumption that the seeker ritual require only a touch with the spirit. It's entirely possible a spirit would have to actually or actively do something while possessing someone to trigger the seeker abilities. So his question is, could a spirit possess an unwilling host? Are they incapable of it or simply unwilling to do it?
Maybe a demon has the malicious intent, whereas a spirit wouldn't, even though they could if they wanted to.
Isn't that a question of the host, though? Like, if you become an abomination because you gave in to your anger, does it matter that you only gave permission for that 1 second, but that was enough for the demon to possess you? You know, kind of like the vampire and the threshold thing. Like, you have to invite a vampire in, but only once, and then they always have access.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Also, I guess a spirit wouldn't want to be twisted because if they're forced in or bound to a host, they get twisted. So inviting a spirit in, asking it nicely, how Solas say, right? That the spirit would be willing to do whatever you ask, like the guardian.
Or the Avar shamans, who apparently just, have one temporarily.
Yeah.
White Wolf said there's a reason demons deceive mages in the Fade is to gain their body. True, they want access. They do want access. So, more about the toad item. God, I must be staring at it for a while because, I always think there's something suspicious about it because it's so odd. And I kept looking at the head at first, and I don't know why it had droopy eyes. Like, it's not really a helm. It's part of a head, but it's not really air. So where the side of the head curves down, it looks like a head of an animal. If you scrunch your eyes, it appears to be a bear in the midst of a roar, like in the elven mirror of a bear with a small open, hugging who we think is Galanan. We know that the symbol of a bear associates with Dirthaman. So what do you think? What is his secret knowledge? Is it resurrection?
That's interesting. I mean, Dirthaman is related with secrets, and we're going to say the toad statue is Dumat, silence, so they're kind of in the same vein.
White Wolf said, I always took that mural as indicating something related to the Codex entry. His high crime is high treason. He took on a form reserved for the gods and their chosen, and dared to fly in the shape of the divine.
I agree that Codex, I like have it memorized because it's a big deal to me. I feel like it's really important.
Yeah. But
yeah, the bear, I can see what you're talking about. The bear face on the side of the statue.
Yeah, it's super subtle because I felt like there's some romance between those two. Some association might not be
Something going on.
Yeah, because if say Thurthaman is rebirth and Gillenan is creation, then what's a moon over his head? I can't think of any other reason why to shape a head that way. Does he look like Tamud?
Maybe it's like whoever these idols are supposed to represent, if it's elven gods or something older than elven gods. I know a lot of elven statues that we see in Trespasser have different shaped heads. Like there's statue that kind of looks like Mythal, and it has like a star head, and there's some with like a moon shaped head.
Yeah.
Maybe these gods, whoever they are, had funny shaped heads. This is one of them.
Very Egyptian.
Yeah, that means that depending on the time and which civilization or the passage of time, the idols start looking more different. And White Wolf said it's also interesting that the bear is colored green for the fade, maybe. I mean, go ahead.
But I was going to say, speaking of other animals, I always thought that this statue looked kind of like a monkey mixed with a toad. Like it looks kind of monkey-ish to me. And I'm wondering if it was a statue intending to depict someone or something, like why wouldn't it look more, if it's elven, why wouldn't it look more elven? Like why wouldn't it look more like a specific animal? You know, like the heart looks like a heart and the owl looks like an owl. What the hell is this weird monkey toad?
Yeah.
That's interesting that you said that, because it could also mean it's in transition. Like this form is in transition. Because let's say a tadpole or a butterfly. If we think about Gildanon's creation story, who knows where the elves came from, really? They say that they made bodies from the earth that needs to grow limbs, have a heart, grow a brain.
It's interesting to me, the statue, it looks like a whole bunch of different cultures mashed together. You know, like there's the Celtic Triskelion, but all the pose of the statue looks more Eastern, like Hindu or Buddhist, because it has more than one set of arms, and it's sitting cross-legged.
Yeah, the multiple arms thing definitely reminds me of like the Hindu god depictions.
I actually looked if there's a Hindu god that's also depicted as a frog. I don't remember finding one.
It's interesting that he has more than one set of arms. I keep thinking of, from Dragon Age Origins, the statues that are in the Elven origin in the Tevinter ruins. There's the statues there with the wings, like architect-style headdress. They have 4 arms. And there's also the concept art in it's the 25 Years of Bioware book of the big sea monster thing with the moon head. It has like 4 arms holding a spear. So I don't know if this character is related to whatever those are, but they all seem to have 4 arms.
Well, there was that one, David Gator did like a stream of Dragon Age Origins, and he was describing like the concept art for the original Archdemon before they decided to make it a dragon. Sounds like what you were talking about with the statue with the 4 arms that has the like Earthemiel headdress. And
yeah, that's right. And that would tie in well with also the cover image for the Dragon Age 4 trailer with the, you know, like the yellow and red colored one with the Dreadwolf head in the center. And there's like 2 figures either side. They don't have 4 arms in those images, but they certainly look very reminiscent of those Archdemon concept art.
Let's talk about I call them the clone, the smaller idols. So we found copies of this idol below Kirkwall, specifically under Haramon's estate, under Sundermount in Pride's End, below Corypheus prison in Vinmark Mountain, and in the hidden cave in the western approach, aside from the 5 in Dinan Hanin. Why do you think there's so many of them, and why do you think they are in those specific locations?
Well, to me, I think that's the most interesting part, is the locations. Because I feel like the first time you're most likely to find the statue is in Meryl's loyalty quest, right? In Dragon Age 2. And because it was Meryl, and because the demon in it supposedly had all these Eluvian secrets. I just kind of assumed it was an elven thing, even though it doesn't really look elven.
Mm.
But then I also thought it was kind of weird that it was surrounded by these like skull pillar kind of things that looked pretty Tevinter to me. But then it also showed up in the Legacy DLC as Dumont, which is Tevinter. So it just makes you think, like, what does that have to do with the elves? I don't know. The locations just make me go off on, like, why would it be here? Who does it belong to? Like that, the Dumont idol one, like, what was it even doing down there? How did it get down there? Why is it in Deep Roads? Was it there before they made the prison? Was it part of it all? You know what I mean? Or did somebody bring it down there? It feels important to me.
Right, you brought up something interesting about Tevinter because once they appropriated, or maybe even date back further than Tevinter Imperium, maybe the Neurominians, and those who learned so-called blood magic, they might have took all these elven artifacts, sculptures, and imposed their own definition on them.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe they call it Dumont. Maybe they're really not Dumont. The elves
Right.
might have seen them as Dumont.
Yeah, we know Tevinter stole a lot from the elves, and I feel like the statues are called idols most times, like when you hover over it, right? Most times you come across it. So that to me indicates like worship, right? And so it just reminds me of like the thing Dorian says in the Jaws of Hakon DLC, something about like how they take like a holiday and change it to their own holiday. They appropriate the religion to their own religion, which makes me think that the two religions are related. The old god religion and the ancient elven religion.
White Wolf said, I had a theory that involved these statues. I was thinking the fact that they're a recurring design across thetas and across cultures meant that it might be a sort of warning symbol for people to avoid them. Maybe they were once akin to a radioactive symbol, something everyone understood as, better stay away from that, demon is here. But time has eroded their meaning. Depiction of demons, or what a common people would think they look like, and used to bind demons to a location.
I think all the ones we come across, except for the one in Danan Hanin, has like a demon attached to it, right?
This kind of struck me kind of weird too. The Emerald Knights used that place as their fortress, so to speak. But that particular area was walled off, was bricked off, right? And the Vinditori had to break into that place, or I don't know even who really broke that break wall, but I'm assuming that they blew that place open to see what's further down there. Then who was originally down there? Was that tomb even older than what we think it is? Maybe it's a fortress for the arcane warriors back in the ancient days versus the Emerald Knights of the Dales. And it reminds me of Solas saying that the Evanuris were generals before they became gods. So they are a general of what? Were these 9 arcane warriors? But that's a different topic. White Wolf said, to go further with this line of thinking about being used to bind demons and spirits, have we considered the possibility that the symbolism about rebirth is less about facilitating or representing it, but rather denying it? Maybe they were used to bind spirits and demons with the intention of denying this rebirth, like a spiritual prison. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
I think with the altar of Dumont under the Vinmark mountain, I think if you choose to defile the altar, several demons do appear. So that would work well with your theory, White Wolf, about denying rebirth. Maybe the spirits or demons were in the statue for some reason. When we defiled the altar, they were released.
The one below Hermon's estate was a pride demon.
Desire demon?
Desire, sorry. Now, we didn't see her coming out of it. She was standing in front of it, but somehow maybe she's associated with that idol. Other one, under Sundermount, there was a pride demon. So I got them switched. However, the one in the hidden cave, there was a note saying that it is warm to a touch and shivers slightly as if it has a pulse. So there could be a spirit in there that was bound, but haven't been twisted yet, and the cultist was feeding it blood.
Well, I thought it was interesting it kind of reminded me of the way it described the gem in the Brazilian forest that has the arcane warrior spirit or soul or whatever. Like, I think that
Yes.
says it like vibrates or whatever. It's like something is housed in there.
Yeah. Oh, that is true. It could be a safe haven for a spirit who's running away. Because, yeah, you talk about that arcane warrior thinking that someone would save him if he seals himself in this life gem. And someone forgotten and never let him out. White Wolf said the Nanhanin is a tomb, right? So something about the presence of these statues reminds me of the Navarra necropolis. It would certainly not be out of character for ancient Tevinter, especially Corypheus, to encourage beings to reach towards the forbidden for power.
I wonder if ancient elves would have bound spirits or demons, or if this was like a Tevinter thing.
Is that why the Dreadwolf was so adamant about not harming the spirits? Like in Tevinter Nights, the Mortalitassi was telling her story, and it was the Dreadwolf who killed everyone who was doing the ritual and said something about,
Well, and he even got pissed about the wisp or whatever in the stirring stick and like wanted to free that.
Yeah. He seems to be against slavery of any kind, whether it's with spirits or living beings.
I agree. I think it's just a common theme with Solas and slavery. Freeing the elves from their Vallaslin, freeing them from the Evanuris, freeing wisps and spirits being bound. I think that's also why he's so against the idea of Cole's process, binding Cole. He hates that idea.
Yeah, he also challenges Iron Bull about the Canary.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought of this, but my other thought is I wonder if these idols were actually once a being, that these are corporal forms that got petrified.
Ooh.
Or like with the Tevinter statue from the Mage Origin and Witch Hunt.
Oh yeah, Eleni Zenobia or whatever.
Yeah, I hope her husband got a statue and we find it in Tevinter. Not that it'll talk, but like just that we find it.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
Those Avar statues too from Awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also Solas. We saw Solas petrifying the Canaries.
Yeah, but they didn't talk.
That's true. That's true. I don't know how deep the petrification could go if there's layers.
That's what I always found interesting about the Tevinter statue in the Mage Origin, and a good reminder on the two Avar in Awakening, because they could talk.
Is that the Brother War and Brother Peace? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, the ones who can't remember who they were, just that they're angry and tired.
Yeah.
Mood.
And I'm a totally crazy about numbers. I see everything in numbers nowadays with Dragon Age. And I counted how many of these frog idols there are. 5 of the smaller ones in the Nahanin, 3 beneath Kirkwall, and 1 in a hidden cave. That makes 9. And then the larger one is the 10th. And I'm still working on the Pride and Executors 4-part series, and within the Temple of Solasan there's a total of 10 chambers. I just find it quirky. I don't know, correlation?
There's no frog statue in there though, right?
No, but the tale is that Pride was bound there because they went over their head about something. We don't know what.
Yeah, absolutely. That's curious, because if the statues were used as a binding spell, I mean, what better prison? So it's interesting that there isn't a statue there.
Mm-hmm. Right, because if we use the toad idols to bind spirit, would the Temple of Solasan be used to bind their corporal forms? But then why, when we go in there, we're fighting spirits?
And possessed corpses.
True, in one of the chambers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any correlation, but if we're talking about, if there is, I'm interested that it's the Temple of Solasan, which is place of pride, right? That's what that means. And then the other place we see it first, the statue, is Pride's End. Pride is the theme, apparently.
White Wolf said the toe statue's depiction may simply be symbolic. We've seen demons bound to many different objects, so maybe the Temple Solas used a similar binding method but without the depiction. Here's the big crazy speculation that I want to throw out to you. I noticed that both sides of the idol are of equal proportions. The features of the head, body shape, and the amount of limbs. The only exception is the swirls. So there are no other ancient statues around Thedas that are unrelated to the elven gods in some way, as we know it, so I wonder if there's a clue within the image. The term steganography is the practice of concealing a file, message, image, or video within another file, image, message, and video. So with a digital scalpel, my Photoshop, I dissected the frog. I turned the image upright and sliced the image into 2 equal parts. And then I took the 2 halves, swapped their position, and parked it next to each other to see if I see anything in the image, and I didn't find anything. I returned the sides to their original position, but as I looked more closely, there's the outline of the crease or fold that gives the model depth, and the outline forms like a shape of a matador's hat. So I thought, let me superimpose the left over the right and match the faint crease or fold as close as I can. When I merged those 2 layers, I mirrored it to make the idol whole again, and it looks like an X-ray where you can see bones through skin. There's something emerging around the belly area, but it's unclear. I decided to overlap the 2 halves like a Venn diagram by superimposing the idol's eyes, the left and the right eye above one another. Now it appears there's a totem of some sort in its center, but it's still not very clean. So I separated the mirrors, meaning I kept the 2 left side together versus the 2 right side together and kind of separated them. And now we have this. The left looks chaotic, but there's something to the right side. What I see is the statue with the wings but holding a spear, at least what Tamlin explained as being the statue of Felondine. So the one with the tentacles meant that was Thurthaman. And this kind of looks like that statue Earthamio with that big headdress.
Yeah.
But there's another statue that looks similar like it too. It's the one...
The one that looks like it has like seaweed on it?
No, the other one.
Oh, the one that looks like a beetle?
Yeah.
Beetlehead.
And it's like wrapped like a burrito.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how this figure in the center looks like maybe an old elven statue, maybe an old god of some sort or some being. But the image behind it looks even more trippier. I don't know if it's a monkey or a wolf or emulates Thurthaman's bear icon. Like the top of the toad head that looks like a bear in a roar. Since we're like tinfoiling the hell out of this, I looked up the codex, and this codex about the bear reads, "No beast is more beloved by Thurthaman than the bear. When the world was new, Thurthaman gave one secret to each creature to keep. The foxes traded their secrets to Andrew for wings, the hares shouted theirs to the treetops, and the birds sold theirs for gold and silver. Only the bears kept Thurthaman's gift. Deep within their dens, they slept the months away in the company of their secrets and nothing else. When Thurthaman discovered what had been done with his gifts, he snatched the wings from the foxes, silenced the voices of the hares, and turned the birds into paupers. But the bears he honored for their steadfastness." Do you have any speculation of your own about the toad idol or just anything else we talked about?
I think it's so interesting that you thought to manipulate the image in that way. I would never have thought of doing that myself.
It came from just doing a lot of the previous theory videos about the sacred geometry and about symmetry. But what one person sees might be a totally different view from another person's perspective. Guess we're kind of at the end of this episode or segment. Or what's a good name for this? Is this a segment or episode? I don't know. But thank you all very much. This is super fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was really fun.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And thank you, White Wolf. He said it was fun. I want to invite all of you back again, so we'll figure it out a time. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.